Today, Jordan and I are going to tell you how we got everything you see in our displays behind us and everything we have in storage for free. Actually, we made money getting all of this stuff. So, we're going to talk about how you can do the same thing. Like I said, we are going to be talking about how we got all of this for free and how you can do the same. The first thing you can do is make sure you're entered to win our giveaway, because we're going to be giving away a Spider-Man No Way Home 3-pack or a Batman Batmobile Gold Label McFarlane those two things. Winner's choice. Make sure you're following and go back to the HasLab prediction episode and get your entry in there. Now, to amass such a collection as we have, I think if I have my picture of my original collection from when we were kids, I'll put that up on the screen. And then maybe I'll put an updated picture of what I actually have left of that. I probably have I started out with less than 100 figures, but it was a good collection. Yeah. And then I now probably I have all the big Build-A-Figures from it left, but out of the regular, because it was mostly Toy Biz and early Hasbro, I probably have 10, maybe 15 of those figures left, probably 10. But when we first started collecting, I had put together Blob when we were kids, or like kind of towards the end of our collecting is when we were younger. We kind of stopped through college and then got back in like 3-ish years ago now. I don't know, kind of during the pandemic. And then, so I had that Blob. I sold Blob. That got me, he was like at his peak when I sold him, and I never was a big fan of him as a kid. I think I got $250 for him, or $215.
That was quite a bit.
Yeah, so that gave me my
That's
kind of
pretty
like
crazy that he was selling for that much.
And now he's probably 50, 40.
I've seen some people sell him for like 30 at some point, which is a crazy deal. But
right.
Not crazy deal, but definitely in the lower end.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was definitely lucky there, where I was able to kind of get in at the peak of a lot of the older figures that I had. So I sold him as my initial, like, getting back into collecting money. And then I was able to buy, the first thing I got, I think, was with you. We went to Jay's and I got the Build-A-Figure Sauron, because I always liked him from the cartoons, and it was like, I'm going to get him. I think it was like $80 when I bought him. And that was kind of our initial, like, oh, we're going to spend money on this hobby now.
Yeah.
And then I got Emma Frost, got her sealed because she was the last piece I needed to complete my Annihilus Build-A-Figure.
What a figure to get sealed.
Right, exactly. And it was pretty cheap. I think it was only like $25 for her, but then I just sold the figure because no need. But then after selling Blob, I was kind of like, okay, well, if I can make that much on Blob, how much can I sell these other figures that I don't really need, or like there's updated versions of them? So kind of sold off some of those. That gave me some money to buy in some other figures. A lot of those figures that we got at first, or at least that I got at first, were kind of those cheaper, like $10 figures, like D-list villains, things like that.
Yeah, that was probably what I was doing too. Just kind of being like, oh, that looks cool. I think.
Right. Neither one of us could not pass up a $10 action figure in the Facebook groups. I think we bought all of the $10 figures. But then, that new stuff starts to come out. Maybe, I think the Target exclusive Gunslinger Spawn was our first like retail trade type of thing, where we're like, okay, if we're able to get this now, we can trade for some of those figures that we've missed out on while we weren't collecting. And you had some good trades there. So
I did.
I would say you traded up, where you bought Gunslinger for, I think he was $20 retail, and you got like 3-4 Build-A-Figures that probably would have fetched like $100, but like somebody that had been collecting for a while, and they're in that point where they're like, oh, I've got too many things, I need to clear space, and I want this other. it was a fair trade at the time because Gunslinger was so hot.
Yeah.
But then we kind of realized that it, out of all those things that come out now, chances are you're not going to find those hot items to be able to grow your collection that well, or not very fast anyway. And honestly, the like scalper way of going about things is super slow, so like I wouldn't even recommend doing that. Maybe you could get a trade in, but that's really kind of your best option. I mean, maybe if you get really lucky with like a platinum first appearance Superman, I think that's going really high right now, or
Yeah.
like cell shaded animated Spider-Man was kind of high at the time, but even that still, you're maybe buying it for $25 and selling it for 40. That's a slow process to be able to grow a collection for free.
Right.
So what we've discovered is in the Facebook groups, or even on eBay sometimes, or in local marketplace, you find people selling either their whole collection, or maybe they're like, I'm getting out of X-Men collecting, I'm going to sell all my X-Men figures. You find those people that are selling huge bundles of figures. Usually that's going to be at a discount, and then we would buy those figures and then sell them individually. So typically when we buy lots, we're going to be trying to get 50% more than what we spent. So like if we buy something for $100, we're planning on selling it for $200. So I think the Facebook groups is probably the best place to find that. Or
Yeah.
if you get even more lucky, it's in your like local pickup from somebody that used to collect and now they're wanting out.
Right.
So
Yeah, I think I would say Facebook kind of the way to go. I mean, you and I are both in, gosh, I don't know how many of those groups.
over
But
20.
yeah, a big part of that is just kind of scrolling through every so often, and yeah, like you said, you find people who are maybe like, I'm trying to get out of collecting, or like I think recently there were a bunch of people selling stuff before the PowerCon. Like, hey, I want to go buy this thing, so maybe if I got some figures I don't care about so much, I'm going to sell them at probably not what I could get out of them, but
Yeah.
I just kind of need the money now. So
Mm-hmm.
I think an important thing to remember when doing that kind of thing, at least from our end, is it's not like you said, it is when you double your money, like that is really cool, but sometimes that can take a
Yeah.
little, it's very rare, at least I've found, that I buy a lot and then immediately sell it and like
Yes.
double what I paid for it. Like
Right.
sometimes you're going to be stuck with a couple and you'll need to post, I mean, sometimes, I guess it depends on the inventory, but we can post like once a week or every 2 weeks, and then I've had times where I've held on to something for quite a while and then eventually it sells, but
Yeah.
you kind of got to be willing, even within that, I think sometimes to play the long game, I guess. But
Yeah.
um,
And that is the thing with like doing
Yeah.
the lots versus individual. Like we're
Right.
buying from people that just want to say like, I want this stuff
All this
out of
gone.
my house and I'll do it for that discounted price. And then we're going to be holding on to it, storing it. And like you said, that can take, like I have stuff from, I mean, I've put stuff for like a year and it just doesn't sell. Like, I mean, I could put it cheaper, but I mean, since I've always got stuff to sell, I don't mind holding on to something. Sometimes if I get sick of it, I'll put it on a fire sale for like $5 and just get it out.
Yeah.
But it does take a lot more time to do it that way because you're trying to get closer to the full value of your figures. So that's an important part too, is like, it's not like if you're already swamped and you have no time for this, it may be more stress than it's worth. But
Yeah.
I think
and there is that degree of your initial investment. Like we had to put some money in to kind of
True.
get the ball rolling. So you put in some money, buy some stuff. Maybe you're in a deficit for a while, but I mean, the hope, of course, is that if you can keep selling, you start to get in the positive, and then, like you said, you end up with the figures that you want, money to spend on those, but also hopefully a little extra that you could. I know you have your strategy of you just leave it all in the PayPal, right? And you just kind of that is like your toy sale / toy
Right.
expense money.
Yep. So as I do try to get like, because I'm doing a lot of my purchasing from the Facebook groups, or like Hasbro Pulse has, or Big Bad Toy Store. They all have ways of connecting your PayPal to your purchasing method. So if I want to
Yeah.
buy new figures, I can just use the money that people have sent me through PayPal. I can just send that
Hmm.
money back to, Hasbro or Big Bad Toy Store through Pulse or through PayPal. Unfortunately, Mythic Legions doesn't do that, but then at that point, I just use the credit card and then I just
Yeah.
transfer that money from PayPal to my
Hmm.
bank account. And it's the same thing.
Yeah, I think getting set up on PayPal is a great way. Just even if you're not doing it that way, just to be able to keep track of all your
Mm-hmm.
transactions, so you can easily like I started doing more like itemized, like you
Mm-hmm.
can just keep track of like when I bought something, when I sold something, which
Mm-hmm.
it definitely just helps to stay on top of like how it's going, but also you can sort of refer back and be like, have I sold this before? And be like, oh, what did I sell it for last time? And um, because I think that maybe is another thing we could talk about is like how do you price your stuff?
Yeah.
Because I think some people, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of that is kind of researching.
Mm-hmm.
We usually go by like less figuring out taking out fees and all that stuff for stuff
Yeah.
on sold listings on eBay and
Mm-hmm.
um
If you want
but
like
I
a
don't know, I
deep
think
dive, if you want a deep dive into
yes.
how to sell your action figures, we did a whole episode on how to price them
Yeah.
and like sealed versus loose and
Hmm.
complete, smoky, all that stuff. Go back and watch that for like the full in-depth
Yeah.
how to sell.
Yeah. but
But
but I think the more you do it, the more you just kind of get a feel for like
mm-hmm.
glancing at a lot. I think you and
Right,
I can do that now and be like, yeah, that's probably worth da, 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 da,
you can pick out the
which
figures that have the
right.
value and the figures that are going to sit and not sell.
Yeah, which I think maybe at first there was maybe some like I don't know, maybe intimidation of like, I don't, do I, how can I, you know, assess all this stuff or be up to
Mm-hmm.
date? And but I think, maybe just the good idea is starting with something small and
Mm-hmm.
seeing where it goes. And
Yeah,
I don't know.
because I think you should always lean towards the low end of what you're going to make your money on.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guarantee if you buy a lot of 20 figures, five of those figures will not sell for as much as you think, and probably more. So
Yeah.
if I think I can sell something for 15, I'll usually err more on the side of like, I'm going to plan to sell it for 10. And then I'll be
Mm-hmm.
happily surprised that my margins are higher when I sell things. But it's just so rare that like, because maybe the market drops out and like you buy a lot and then like, oh, it's got this figure in it and now it went on sale. So why would somebody buy it from you for $25 when they could buy it brand new from
Mm-hmm.
Target for the same or less? So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, but like between lots, if I'm gonna pick, like if somebody has like an MCU lot or a comic book lot, I'm always gonna lean towards the comic book figures. MCU figures are like I can't think of probably 10 that are worth more than $25 if they're like loose.
Yeah. Or
So,
even like ones that I've sold for, a decent
mhm,
amount. Like you're, I mean,
right.
most of the time they're like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, MCU figures typically, I mean, you can still get a good deal. Like if somebody's selling them and they're at $5 each, that's the most I would price my
Even
MCU
then,
figures
Dakota's
at.
like,
You got to get your MCU figures dirt cheap to be able to make money on those. If they're mixed in with other comic book figures, then it's something I would consider. But if I could, like, if somebody was like, "Hey, I'm going to sell my whole collection," I would usually start the
Mhm.
conversation of, "Hey, how much would your comic book figures cost?" And just kind of focus on trying to buy those. Sometimes people aren't going to want to split their stuff up, and they're just going to want to sell everything.
Mhm.
And it also depends too on who you're talking to. Like, do they know like what they have? Because like if it's just somebody that was collecting for their kids and their kids are like, "Oh, I'm grown up, I don't want these action figures anymore," mom probably doesn't know like, "Oh, this one's from a movie, this one's they're all just superheroes to her."
Mhm.
So you know, keep that in mind. And I think trying, another thing is when you're pricing your figures, complete is going to be more valuable than incomplete. When you're buying a lot, I almost guarantee you, like if that lot is 10 figures or more, you're not going to have complete figures. Like you're going to be missing an extra hand, you're going to miss a blast effect, something like that is not going to be there. So plan on selling incomplete figures, which some people prefer to buy. Like if they're like, oh, I don't even care about that head, they want to find it cheaper, and then you can sell them that at a little bit of a discounted price. I think I can pull up my spreadsheet here. So my last lot that I bought, and now granted, don't get your hopes up for this. This I probably will never have again in my life. This is my best lot. A local guy was collecting and was moving, but he was like just moving across town. Like he wasn't even like, I thought he was moving across country because he was selling stuff so cheap. But he was just moving across town, had a bunch of Marvel Legends. He actually was the one that had the Punisher motorcycle. He had that listed on Marketplace for, well, I think $65 or something. And I was like, hey, would you do less or something? He was like, yeah, totally. It works good. I was like, all right, do you have any other Marvel Legends? He was like, I actually got like 3 boxes of them. I was like, you want to sell them? And he was like, yeah, I want them all gone. So I got, what did I say? It was like 45-ish figures. And it was a mix of comic and MCU. Build-A-Figures complete and incomplete. I got the whole lot for, he just kind of did like the make an offer type of thing. And I was like, I never like those because people always want more than they should. So I was like, well, if I sell them all like on the very low end, if I calculate it like this, like I shouldn't pay more than $500 for them. So I'll start low at $400 and then he can work his way up and I'll pay $500 or maybe a little more than $500.
Yeah.
He said $400 worked. So I was like, sweet. And then he said, if they're not complete, I'll do $350. I was like, there's absolutely no way they're complete. So he knocked off the $50. I got them for $350. So if I pull up my spreadsheet, and I haven't put in my most recent sales from this past weekend or last weekend, it looks like either. So, I bought the lot for $350, and so far I've made $1,731.
That's crazy, dude.
So that was a more than double lot, obviously. And I kind of have like 2 sections of my spreadsheet. I've got like the list of the names with what I want to sell them for and then what they actually sold for. Because as time goes on, I'll kind of drop the price and like I try to have, since I got these for so cheap, like I'm trying to give some of the deals back. Like I'll have a lot of people when they're buying stuff from me, they're like, hey, did you realize you have Chameleon for whatever I have him for now, $30 or something? They're like, he's going for like 45, 50. I was like, yeah, I know, but I just like, if I make everything is profit over $7 and everything now is profit. So I'm like, I'm okay giving that deal to the other collectors because I got a good deal on it. So I'd rather just sell it, make my money, and then somebody else gets a little excitement for a cheaper figure. So if I end up selling the rest of them for what I have them listed for, I'll make close to 3,000. So that's almost a 10x on this one, but that's pretty rare.
That's quite the multiplier there.
So that's what I'm saying is don't expect that to happen for all of your lots. Try to aim for...
But it can happen.
Yeah, it can. So you just kind of keep an eye out. And it in addition to taking time to sell figures individually, it also takes the time of like, I mean, Jordan and I would hate to see our screen time on Facebook because we're just constantly scrolling Facebook like, oh, that lot, nope, not good deal, next lot. And like, I mean, we enjoy the like other aspects of our Facebook groups too. Like I like to post some of my photography, or I like to see the other people customs. So it's not like we're just like in there like, oh, where's the next deal?
Yeah. Well, no, we definitely like buy stuff. At least, we both will buy things that we keep too, or you know, like I'm also in. As you know, I've become something of a Mezco man lately, so I'm in a couple Mezco groups, and that's. I'm not really in the Mezco flipping business. I'm usually just buying those to keep them if I find ones that I like. But yeah, it's cool too to, I mean, then of course that opens the door to like trades and stuff too, or you can use your your lots. I'm sure we talked about this in the other video, but getting stuff that in a lot that you can then trade for something else that maybe you want, which might not be
Right.
like a huge money making, but it's at least saying, well, I'm getting a figure that I wanted and it
Mm-hmm.
comes out of the lot. So
Yeah. And like you said, like it's not like I'm just pocketing all of this money either. Like clearly I have all of this stuff behind me that I've also spent my money on. So listen, I
I
can
am
pull
a
up my
strong
year.
collector, so
I'm a strong collector, so I have money coming in, but I have money going out.
money.
Um,
When you develop tastes like ours.
right. I just got the Mayfex steel back here, so
That's right.
and then yeah, Mythic Legions aren't
But
always cheap,
it
but
makes you feel a little better about buying
right.
stuff when you're like,
Yeah.
well, it's I got a little cushion, which
Mm-hmm.
I think,
Exactly.
yeah, it makes me more comfortable with buying new things rather than having to like panic when something comes out and just be like, oh shoot, I gotta sell a bunch of stuff I like. It's like, well, I've
Yep.
got a little something built up, so
Yeah. And that
save
is
some
super. And I probably would not have bought the Mayfex steel if I hadn't had that
more.
cushion
Mm-hmm.
of like, oh, I've actually done pretty well so far this year. So like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, kind of treat yourself with a higher end figure. My year to date sales as of July, so I don't have August in here yet, but I've got it kind of separated out into like how much I've spent on
Mm-hmm.
action figures, how much so that's like things that I've bought as like to sell in lots or things that I'm keeping, how much I've spent
Mm-hmm.
to ship the things that I've sold, and then how much I've sold in total. And I think that includes, this is mostly all Facebook sales and like maybe $300 worth of eBay sales. So I've spent to purchase a little over $6,000. I've spent to ship $1,200, which was kind of shocking to me that I've spent that much just on shipping alone. And then I've sold for $10,000. So that's about a $7,000-ish
Yeah.
to buy and ship, and then $10,000 of sales. So it gives me, about $2,000 to $3,000 of profit for this year so far.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like I said, that original picture of what we had, Jordan had similar, maybe even a little bit less, because
Oh yeah, I think
you
less for sure.
you gave a lot of your figures to your nephews and stuff
Nieces and nephews, and then they disappeared.
yeah. So to grow to the substantial collections that you see before you now, and I think it's been pretty fun too. Like I think we enjoy
Oh yeah.
the kind of selling, trading, buying stuff like that. Like even if I was like well enough off that it was like I don't have to sell anything to ever buy what I want to buy, I just still think it's fun to kind of have those like you find those good deals and then you can kind of see those profits roll in from your action figure sales. Because I just enjoy it. I like this. I don't know. I enjoy the sorting and the posting and the interactions most of the time. Some of the interactions are a little. Some people are weirdos, but
The thrill of the hunt.
exactly. So that's how we are able to make our, make profits while growing our strong collection. It takes some work, but if that's something you enjoy and you've got the time for it, obviously Jordan and I think it's very worth it. And we haven't had to spend any of our, real money on any of our collection, but we keep collecting. So if you want to know more about this, you can leave a comment down below if there's something we missed, like, I don't know, specifics of things. Like both of us have our spreadsheets, so we kind of know what sells well, what doesn't, how to do it. Like I said, go back and watch the sell episode because that's going to tell you, pirate ship to save money on shipping. I spent $1,200 on it this year so far. So if I was doing that just through the post office, I would probably be spending $2,000. So go watch that video. That'll give you a lot of the selling advice. And then hopefully you learn something here. Make sure you're entering that giveaway because you can grow your collection by getting free stuff from the strong collectors. Make sure you're liking, sharing, and subscribing. And until next time, stay strong.